Yeah. Go Indian Tech. You're gonna open a YouTube channel soon.
Yes. You always need the Indian. As long as you best of luck, even the AI.
Is it gonna be called Go?
No, all Indians.
All Indians?
AI.
All Indians AI? Okay.
Okay. So the basic assumptions are, I don't know how Python works, the Python ecosystem works, so I'm going to explain it using the Node.js ecosystem.
Yes.
Okay.
We're all familiar.
Node.js,
We're all
Node.js.
familiar.
You
Okay.
have ever worked with Node.js?
Not really, no.
Okay. So most of the, let's start with git ignore, okay?
You could have just said like, how are you Indian and you have never worked with Node.js?
Imagine if Indians are just, AI is just Indian people sitting behind a desk and paid 30 seconds per ounces, 30 cents per ounces.
I zoned out.
Don't forget the .env.
Wait, okay. So normally, whenever you create a project,
Yeah.
git ignore is only there if you initialize the, well, if you initialize the git, it might not be there, so always check. And what is the point of git ignore? So in git ignore, you put the files I don't want tracked by git. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the most important files is .env star. And if you remember star, it's the regex part. Okay. So star is regex part, and often there's another file which is .env.example, which only holds the, let's say, the steps to how to get your own, how to recreate your variables, or these are the names, let's say URL equals to something something. These are the sample values, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So .env.example is the sample of, hey, these are all the variables which my app might need.
Yeah.
Okay, so this you can push to the GitHub. Okay, you can push this to the GitHub because it doesn't actually hold the variables.
Yes.
But anything with .env, anything else.
But you must have env in your root.
Yeah.
The file.
Yeah, and again, whenever your env is not working properly, most likely you have it at the wrong place.
Yeah.
Okay, and always check the documentation of the framework itself to see where it should live. There have been so many times I have put the env file in the source folder and wondering why the fuck it's not working.
Has to be in the root.
Yeah.
And it
Now
can
I
never
know.
be in public.
Now I know. It's like I fixed the code, but the code I was running was from a different folder, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in there.
If you're using like stuff like import, like the functions, like on React, it can only import stuff from within the public directory. It cannot import from outside the public directory.
I don't know where the public directory came from in React, but we'll come to that later.
When you set up a project, it automatically spawns. Nowadays, like with the newer versions.
Okay, I don't think I've worked with the newer versions. Okay,
No,
so
that's fine.
and the files, okay, this does not go over here. Okay, and this can come in different flavors. So it can be .env, .local, .env, development, .env, what else is there? Do you remember?
Staging.
Staging can be there. Production can.
There's production,
yeah.
and then there is demo. If there is demo,
So
there's so many things.
there's so many things. Okay.
Yeah.
And normally, every framework itself has a hierarchy of which .env file it will read first.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes what happens is you have the .local and .develop both in your folder, and you're changing it over here when the framework is saying, no, I'm giving more precedence to the .local file. So in case you have more than one type of .env files, then most likely check the framework's documentation on which it's doing. And now if you're, I keep saying the word framework, okay? Because when you work with Next.js does the part of importing this into your projects.
Yeah.
But if you're working with bare bones Node.js and Express, then you have to import new libraries,
Yes.
which read it from the root directory.
npm install like env or like
Yeah.
npm installs.
So it can be the framework.
And it's different for yarn as well.
Yeah. Right from framework. Or the most common Node.js nodejs library is .env.
Yeah.
.env, that's the name of the library, okay? And again, it's the framework of the library which has its own rules of which precedence it gives.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we have local variables, and before we go there,
Let's start with what are those variables?
Wait.
Okay.
okay.
You said before we
So-
go over there.
And whenever you run your code on local, if the environment variables are not there, things are gonna crash.
Yeah.
Because environment and variables hold your API keys or the URL endpoints or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are important to run your application on localhost.
Yeah, I can give them a small example on like how like top down, like if you're accessing something like a Amazon S3 bucket, your .env would have the bucket number.
Yes.
It would have the API logins for that, and then inside your actual code, you're fetching this like the login details from the environmental files, and then
Yeah.
you're like signing in.
So what
for
he's
the
trying
user.
to say is, now other than get ignored, you have the source file, source folder, which has your source files.
Yeah.
Okay, and from here you go like .env. I don't remember the thing, but you go like .env and whatever the variable name was over here, variable name. And this is notation based on, again, library or framework. Okay, the notation on what
Yeah, I noticed like in work they sometimes at some points they put something .env dot and the name of the variable.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that.
so that's the notation which comes from either the framework itself or the library.
Okay.
And so that's where you have to go like, okay, which command I need to use so I can access the variables from these files.
Yeah.
Okay, so you never write the name of, you never give the values of the environment variables directly in the library,
Yeah.
directly in the source code. You fetch it using these libraries or framework build tools from this
Yeah.
env files,
Yeah.
which also means when you're on your production server, you have your source files which get built, but if I build my project without the without the environment variables, will the application work?
No.
Yusuf, this might be very so on my production server, right?
Mhm.
When I build my project using the source, will this project work?
Yeah, it should work. Wait, you described the.
So
scenario.
over here you need the source files,
Yes.
which read your environment variables from
Yes.
these files.
Yes,
Now I have deployed it.
you have deployed it.
So now I have the source files which build,
Yes.
but something's missing because you never pushed your environment variables. So
Are you drag and dropping your?
no,
Did
right
it
now
build?
there's nothing. Right now it's just the source code because you had, so let's say CI/CD using.
Whatever platform you're deploying on, you could declare environmental variables on it, and then maybe it could read from that instead. Like if you're deploying, for instance, using like a platform like Vercel or Railway, they give you the option to define an environment variable there,
Yes,
and you can declare them there.
yes. And the UI that they give you, they are literally recreating these files in the production.
Yeah.
Okay, so normally you don't need to worry about either. If you have used Vercel, they give you two options: either you can just paste the variables or declare them one at a time.
Yeah.
So you need to redeclare.
Or you could have all your environmental stuff in your backend, and you only deploy your front end, so you never have. Like you could put your environmental variables in the backend, so whenever you do an API call, basically whenever you want to use them.
But where are you gonna do the API calls to?
Okay, so you have a backend, you store your for instance, if the front end is trying to access like something that requires the use of the environment variable, it could do an API call to the backend to like request the data from there.
You are requesting sensitive material over HTTP and HTTP request.
That's not good.
That's
like
not
even
good.
even
That's not good.
even me, I know that I can intercept that and take the environment variable from it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's not
yes,
good
yes,
at all.
Fuck it, just
Mm.
just
And
change it in any way
when you
possible.
say a front end,
Fuck your entire website.
so
Oh,
I was very happy if I'm being honest.
hold up.
Okay,
I'm very happy.
so-
I'm laughing already, bro.
Yeah. So
You're good there?
even when you're serving your front end, like
Mhm.
I think you're having this misconception. Whenever you're serving your React front end, it is still being served through a server.
Mm-hmm.
It just now you're running two different servers, one for the back end and one which is serving only the front end. And now this server is requesting the back end server to send
Yeah, so
whatever
it's just
the
another
dialog
layer.
is.
So it's
So
just another
Re-
layer of complexity for no
Yes.
reason. Yeah.
So React runs on its own server.
Yeah.
But the only difference is it only serves front end stuff, and you request the data from your backend using HTTP methods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically you need environment variables, and it's always sometimes again depending on the method that you choose to deploy with Vercel or say Railway. Railway also gives you a UI in which you can just add the environment variables, and Vercel
I
also.
think Vercel now. Yeah.
Yeah, Vercel is much older.
But Vercel is the only one that has like a terminal that you could use. Like Railway doesn't. You can only use the
Railway doesn't have yet, but most of them start offering.
Yeah.
So they just expose because over here whenever things are happening, you log the things on console.
Mm-hmm.
Backend you don't really have the access to the console, but they're still getting logged.
Mm-hmm.
So Vercel just makes it more visible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Yusuf, keep watching it.
Yeah, I'm just setting up.
Okay.
the environment.
So you still need environment variables over here, and now there are two options. Either I can literally copy paste these variables
Mm-hmm.
over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or I have separate environment variables for here and separate environment variables for here,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe some of them are shared.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in an ideal scenario you have separate environment variables for your local development and separate for staging and separate for production.
Yeah.
Okay, because you don't want to experiment on the production environment variables.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so and
And you're usually working. Production is usually like master. So whenever you push or like a merge request gets pushed to master, it automatically redeploys the.
Well, I think
It
that
automatically
depends.
redeploys.
It depends on how you're setting it up in Get.
No,
Like,
no.
because-
Usually the
Ask the question again.
The deployment platform redeploys your project if a push has been detected to a specific branch, like main or master. So usually you only use master environmental variables if you're gonna use end like the
you're gonna
prod.
push it to prod.
Exactly.
And what are you saying?
I'm saying that's how depends on how you're setting it up in in GitHub. Like there's a way where like how you're setting it up in deployment. Like there's a certain tag you give it, then it does something.
You have some of the things, but you're not sure what words are those.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, and Yusuf, there's a missing piece in between local development and production, which he has some pieces and you're not aware yet. Okay,
Mhm.
and that part is CI/CD.
Okay.
Okay, CI/CD is again remember on your local development whenever you want to run
I know CI, but what is CD?
continuous integration
Uh-huh.
and continuous development.
Continuous development. Okay.
Okay, so God fucking damn it. that
Continuous
was-
integration,
yeah.
continuous development.
So the CI/CD, remember on your local thing, whenever you do something, you have to give the command of this command npm run build,
Mhm.
Yes.
npm run serve. But we normally use npm run dev, right?
Yeah.
Run dev to develop the thing. But the build command still needs to be given.
Because build happens on dev anyways.
But what does it?
What does it? What?
There has to be some computer which is giving that command in order to get those build assets.
Are you talking about like npm run build? How does it work?
No. There,
Like when you're on your laptop, okay, and you want to build your project, you write in your terminal npm
Run build.
or run,
Yeah.
yeah. But when you want to deploy,
No,
who
there's-
does the
there's-
npm?
There's like a service that builds for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which service?
There is a lot, and each service has their own version of Next.js or like purely their version of Node.js, and your package.json has to match that,
And
your scripts of building have to.
Those
match
are
that.
the ones who decide what which environment variables.
Which are errors and which are not generally. Okay.
What? Which what?
Okay, sometimes it could build just fine on your local on your local machine with no errors, just because your package.json or for instance, when there's this variable in your package.json called scripts.
Yeah.
And your scripts, if like the build does a specific thing. So if a build is just the normal npm run build, and it builds just fine. Some others, they don't have the regular npm run builds. They have like a modified parameter version of the npm run builds just for optimized production. Because sometimes some services, they don't want any warnings in like the.
Okay, let me tell you how npm run command works. Okay, so there's a package.json file, right? Package.
Was it package.json or package.log? I don't remember.
So package.json is the one which actually puts is the minified version of package.log.json.
Yeah.
And the need for package.log.json is the log.json. It logs the versioning of your packages. So you can keep adding the packages, and if you have ever seen, let's say, give me a name of the package.
React IETN.
My bad.
Okay.
React
so-
DOM, yeah. Or router. React
And
router.
all these packages sometimes start with a caret, this
Yeah.
symbol, right?
Yeah, that's for Virgin.
This is get me the latest version.
Yeah.
So so what can happen is every time you try to run your code, it's refetching the latest version of the package.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid that problem, we have the log.json file.
Yeah, the package log.
So it reads the packages from here and verifies the version from the log file. You
Yeah.
never modify the log file yourself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the point of log file. And in package.json,
It's usually automated, no?
package.
Whenever you install a new dependency, package.log.json gets updated.
Yeah.
Package.json gets updated. Yeah. It's only when you want to modify like a script, like a build script, you do it there.
You never touch package.log.
Not log. No, the regular package.json.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, package. Think of like package.json is just a config file.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just configuration.
So in this config file, there's a tag called scripts.
Yeah.
So whenever you go like npm run,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the next command will come, okay,
Yes.
it checks if that command exists inside this script tag.
Yes. One of them is build. What I'm saying is
Yes.
that you can have inside the build something like CI equal false.
Okay.
Continuous integration equal false, or continuous development equal false, and then right after it's going to be like react-scripts build, which is npm run build. That's it. So you can modify the parameters to minimize errors, because sometimes how like the scripts. Okay, so when you're deploying a project on like Vercel or Railway, it builds based on the scripts provided in like the package.json
Yeah.
folder. So, and sometimes some services consider, like, if the things that they're building on, they consider CI/CD warnings as errors, and treating this warning as an error. We see this statement a lot.
That thing can also be modified
Yes.
through some settings depending on the framework that you're using.
Exactly. Or you
For-
can declare the environment variable like
You have been
CI value false.
You have been working with TypeScript, right?
Yes, and JS.
That's why, because I have run into that error so many fucking times with
Yes.
TypeScript.
Treating warning as errors.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
And for TypeScript, there's a different file called tsconfig
Mhm.
in which you can set up, hey, treat my warnings as warnings, not as errors.
Exactly. Do
Like-
not treat my warnings as errors.
Yeah, like you can modify all of those things which come with TypeScript.
Yes.
Okay, right now we're just going with the good old JavaScript.
This happens in JavaScript. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This happens sometimes.
And the
Also,
moment,
this problem
again,
only
the moment
this
you,
problem I've only encountered, by the way, on Railway. In Vercel, it's fine.
the
only reason
moment you said that you ran into that error, my next guess was you use TypeScript. So yes, I'm very aware.
Yeah. Also, this problem only I encountered on Railway, and the reason why I'm using Railway instead of Vercel is because Vercel has a very slow DNS update whenever you deploy a website. Okay, when you deploy a website on Vercel, okay, now the DNS is updated and everything. Let's say you want to change the DNS. It's like you have to wait until globally the servers that you're hosting on, the DNS cache gets reset or like flushed. That
is
takes like an
something-
hour or two.
From what I understand, that is not something which is controlled by Vercel or Railway. That is how DNS protocol is built.
That's how DNS protocols are built?
Yeah, like you can invalidate caches. So so whenever you're deploying, what normally happens to make sure that this thing gets done fast, the DNS always points to the same thing.
Yeah. But if you ever switch the DNS, it takes some time
So
to propagate.
Yes, but that's when you're re-changing this very link, right?
Yeah.
But if I just change the content inside this link, then all of a sudden the changes are instant.
Yes.
But if you are ever changing the CNAME or the other things which come with the DNS, those always take 24 hours or like 1-2 hours. Normally take half hour, 1 hour, but ideally maximum 24 hours.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to environment file because I have to leave in 5
8
minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you're running into those, see for Vercel, in Vercel you can see which build command they're using. Normally they have a good default command just sitting there, but as he said, there can be some certain settings about your project for which the build command will give errors. So you can modify those build files and build command yourself. Okay. So now these environment variables, normally you give them in the add them directly in the interface of the whatever production thingy that you're using. In Vercel, it's just the normal user interface, okay, where you can just add environment variables. And if you, I have worked with Vercel and Railway as my Postgres database. Vercel has integrations with a lot of services, and it also has service integration with Railway, where it just reads. You can literally be like, for staging, read this part of my staging variables from Railway. For production, read these variables from Railway for production, and it automatically figures those things out. Okay, so you can literally you can sync them up, Railway and Vercel. And one other thing which happens, in which I have not worked at projects of that level, but I'm guessing you must be familiar with this. Other thing which happens a lot is, after a certain time, it's security policy to rotate your variables.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the same way you ideally should change your password after 90 days, it's the same thing with production variables. You change your, and in order to do that, there are different services. Normally, HashiCorp, the one company which made Terraform, right? It has a service called Vault, HashiCorp Vault, and those vaults are literally for storing these things.
Yeah.
So you
by
can,
Terraform, the cybersecurity company.
Terraform is a infrastructure as code.
Infrastructure code, but don't they have a certificate, like a Terraform certificate?
Yeah.
So this is also for like security.
It's a language, so you need to, if you certify, you're basically saying I know how to deploy infrastructure just using code.
Yeah.
That's the project that I did for CPL.
Ah.
You can, it's a declarative language. You can be like, on AWS, this is my provider, these are my resources, EC2, whatever the
I know
S3.
they're using it at work.
Yeah.
I know, but I need to ask more questions.
You never looked into it.
And here's a good thing which I'm not sure if you connect the dots. If your infrastructure is as code, you can version control your infrastructure.
Yeah, I know. That was one of the things that I saw on their Bitbucket, and I was like, but it's too many new information.
Yeah. Okay. So normally, and Amazon has its own version. There are two things called parameter store, and so they have two. One is for normal variables, and the other is for secure variables.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the secure variables, but those are two services offered by Amazon.
Okay.
So in order to make this process easier, I don't want to always go to my production server and change the thing, change the values manually. You can hook them with these other services, with like HashiCorp Vault or SSH Store. Can you look for what AWS service which is SS parameter store and secrets manager?
Okay.
That's such a simple name, I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
okay.
Secrets
Secrets manager is much more costlier, but
to rotate, manage, and retrieve database keys
Yes.
instead of like API keys.
all of the things which should be done for API keys, the secret manager just makes that process very easy. And now here you can literally just be like, okay, read my variables from the secret store, and you can automate the whole process using secret store or whatever the service that you want. So all of just For production, your variables will keep changing. And here's the other part. So this is what I did in my project. I haven't worked on production project, so I'm not sure. So for that, I had on Railway, when I deployed my Postgres, I had two databases, one for the production and one for the local host. And one other thing where you can do is, since I'm just using Postgres database, instead of using Railway, I can spin up the Postgres database in my local host. That's what you do when you run Docker. A lot of people just use the Docker compose command, and that spins up your Postgres server, spins up your front end, spins up your back end, everything on your computer, so you don't have to worry about what are the variables that are living on the cloud. So everything is limited to your local machine. The only variables which you might not have to, there can still be services for which you just can't help but use the variables which are living on the cloud.
I left the HDMI cable. Sorry.
One of those services is Firebase. All the Firebase has come out with Firebase emulator, but when I was using with Firebase, since it's I just had to I had to be online always, have an internet connection in order to continue my development.
Okay.
And here's a different cliffhanger. There's some environment variables which you can expose to your front end.
Yeah, the ones that's not affecting your security of your browser.
Yes.
Like I think one of them is what is it called?
So think of it like when you have a user in your database, the user can have two kind of roles. One is anonymous user, which has least privilege, okay, or the other kind of user, which is admin. You better not expose your admin security keys to the front end, but you can easily expose your anonymous user keys to your front end.
Yeah.
It's 59.
Yeah, and some because when I was working with Firebase for a long time, I was worried about I'm exposing my keys to the front end. No. The security came from the Firebase security rules. So even if I was exposing it to the front end, it was no worry at all.
Okay. We need to continue this another time.
Think of questions because I'm pretty sure I missed some of the questions.
I have other questions, but
Yeah.
for later.
Are you coming back here?
Yeah.
Because we can